Hello. Hi. Robin Creo. Hello. Hi, Robin. How are you? Are you halfway around the world? I think you are. Hi, Mom. Hello. Welcome. How's everybody doing today? I'm not as tired as I was last week, thank God. I was wiped out. You know what? Let me make sure my light is plugged in because last week it was not. It absolutely was not plugged in. And I went dark. Okay. Whew. I am super excited to have my friend Letia on today. Letia and I have been friends for almost 20 years. So actually, wait a minute. You know what? It actually might be more than, it might be 20. Because Johnny and I met, wait a minute. What year are we in right now? We're in 2024. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure this out here. 2024. It's 2024. Johnny and I met in 2006. So it has been 20 years, actually. It actually has been 20 years. Hold on. The bell of the ball. Let's see.
Oop. Why am I sideways?
I don't know.
Why am I sideways? Don't be sideways. Why? Wait. Let me see. What does that do?
No, you're dark now.
Oh, what is this? I could do it on my phone. You know what? Let me see. Hold up. Let's do this.
Upside down.
I'm on my iPad. There we go.
Now you're there. There you are.
There we go.
TT.
TT.
Yes, there
Hold it
you
a little
are.
bit. There we go. I'm trying to get it where it is. What's all this stuff on here? How do I get all that clear? Anyone can watch seeing what you're doing. Shit. Okay. The question join. Okay. Can you see me clear?
I can see you clear. It's not as bright as it probably should be as the top of your head is.
Okay.
So there you go. Okay. Come down. Yep, there you go.
There we go. There we go.
Perfect. Of course, full face. Like, see, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Okay. This is what we do.
I was not coming any. I was not going to come.
Well,
I was not going to come any short of
who you are every single day of the week, honey.
And let me give a shout out. I am wearing the new soft matte foundation from Tom Ford exclusive.
Well, wait a minute. Wait till after. Let some more people come in, honey, so you can
Oh,
tell.
okay.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. Let's wait to
No,
see a few more people come in, and then you
okay.
can tell. You can
Okay.
give your shout
I
out.
get my
Yes,
shout out. Okay. Okay.
absolutely. How are you
Absolutely.
today? How are
Good. How
you
are
today?
you? I'm good. And you?
I am well. I was saying that I'm not as I was exhausted last week, and this week not so much. You know,
Okay.
we're always trying to do something, right?
Right.
We're always doing something, and you know we don't stop until we get it all done.
Of
So,
course. Of course. I see my red lips and your red glasses. We're on point with the red today.
well, so it's my mom, right? I'm very much channeling my mom because so she says, "Oh, well, if you cut your hair, you should have another accessory," and I'm like,
Mm.
"Well, what accessory should that be, mother?" And she said, "You should you should do glasses," and I said, "Okay, let's
Okay.
do it."
Okay.
So I started
Okay.
ordering glasses,
Okay.
right? And so that's a thing. And usually I get the larger frame glasses. And I saw my mom had some readers, and I was like, "Mom, where you get those from?" She was like, "Amazon." Boom. So, so I went on Amazon and I ordered all these colors. And so I bought them up this morning, and I said, "Mom, which ones do you think are best?"
Uh-huh.
She's like, "The red, the
I love the
red."
red. I do.
Thank,
I have a Celine pair, but those are absolutely gorgeous on you, Stace.
thank you,
They
Lucia.
are
Thank you.
absolutely gorgeous. I
I
like
appreciate you.
it.
I appreciate. This is what we do. This is
I
how this
this,
works.
this is right.
This is
This is
how
what we do.
this is how this works. And we'll wait till 7:05 and let a few more people come in. But
Okay, cool.
for those that are here, right? This is Letia Scales Young. This is one of my longtime friends. I was calculating, Letia, because see, we knew each other before I met Johnny, and Johnny and I have been together for 18 years, which would then mean that we have known each other for 20.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Yep.
There you have it.
Yeah, I was thinking that I was like, dang, I've known Stacy a long time. And I couldn't put the actual date to it, but yeah.
Because
It's
I
been
know it was before 2008, right?
right.
So I know you, I think you were in New York at that point or after that,
No,
like right after
I
that.
went to New York 2009.
Okay. So, all right. So close,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And so, I, when I was putting this together in my head, I was like, oh gosh, like we've seen the peak valley, peak valley, peak valley, right?
Right. Right.
And here we are now, right?
Right.
20 years later,
Years later.
boom,
Boom.
right, and doing things, right,
Yes.
and boom, and doing things. So, what I do want to do is kind of have you tell people, like, especially for those who are going to watch later,
Okay.
like well, let me start here. We worked at a big retailer today. We'll just say, we'll call it the B way.
Right. Yes.
We'll call it the B way,
Right.
right? So that's where we
Okay.
met. And we met just, I think, solely because of proximity, because I was in handbags and you were in and you were managing Ellie Tahari.
Right.
So I think we met that way. But why don't you tell people, because there's so many people who honestly are interested in getting into styling, fashion, whatever. And so after college, did you go straight into retail?
No. No. After I graduated my first degree, I actually went to work for a company that dealt with POS systems for retail. So it was a software company. It was called
Okay.
Legility, American Software Legility. And basically they would deal with the POS systems for retail stores, which I thought was very interesting. But I went into like IT. It was so opposite of what I do now. I am always been in fashion, but I was in computers very well. So they trained me. I don't know if people know who Oracle is, but
Mm-hmm.
Oracle is like dealing with administrative computer stuff. And that's what I did when I got out of college. I actually went to go work for a software company. So that's corporate America, with a cute little desk,
Right.
doing doing stuff that I would never think I would do because I'm such an art major. I'm such a fashion girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am going to this company,
Mm-hmm.
fashion will be dressed. And they're like,
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Who is she? Who is this girl? And I was the youngest in the company. And so I was always dressed every day, going to marketing meetings. And I'm like, I had no clue what I was getting into. So, and then they wanted me to do IT work on computers. So imagine a fashion girl dressed down doing IT stuff that she had no clue what it was. So,
And that's hilarious, just solely because, again,
uh-huh.
simpatico. You and I are simpatico.
Right.
When I was working in corporate America, people. I remember this man I worked for. He was like, oh, we're just going to call you Miss Prada. What does that mean? Like,
Oh, I never knew. Did you tell me
I
that?
don't know.
That they call you?
But
No,
yeah,
but
and I was just like,
yeah,
wait, like, what do you like? Why are we there?
right,
But again, I think that that's how you express yourself in those kinds of environments,
right,
right? Like,
right.
'cause there's no other way,
Yeah,
right? So that's
yeah,
how you express yourself. So you worked at the software companies, you did all of that.
right.
So how did you transition into? Oh, let me just say, welcome to those who just jumped on.
Hi,
Thank you so much.
Jay. I see Jay. I see Bryce. Bryce. That's Betty. How are you?
Okay,
Hi.
excellent.
Is it Kaisha? Kaisha. We know Kaisha.
Did
Is
we?
that how we say it? Kaisha.
Did we?
She's at Saks. She's
All
in
right.
jewelry.
Well, there
Yeah.
it
See,
is.
see
Okay.
people in retail coming through.
Amen. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you transition into retail?
Uh. So I think me getting into retail uh got into the fact that I was longing to get back into fashion, and the best way for me to get in back to fashion was I went back to school for fashion.
Right.
This is where I got my degree for my associate degree in image consulting and fashion marketing, concentration in image consulting. And while I was at the corporate office, I was going to school, doing all my paperwork in my office with fashion. And so I would print all my fashion stuff out. I had an office to myself with print everything fashion. That's all I would do all
I
day.
could totally envision this. I could completely envision this too. Totally envision this, right?
So yeah,
Totally not
right.
doing exactly what you need to do to forward the vision. All
Yes,
right.
yes. And I distinctly remember the last day at Closer work. They were laying people off, and it was around the time of 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after that, people were getting laid off, and I was still there. And my boss got laid off, and then they had a meeting with me, and I knew it was coming, but I had already prepared myself for if I got laid off because I went back to school. And they had this. They tried to tell me in a nice way, like, I think you'd be better doing something else because you're so fashionable. You just look like you'll probably go somewhere else. And I said, thank
Thank
you.
you. They were helping you. They were helping you.
They were
Right,
helping
right.
me because I already knew I wasn't going to be there long, but I think I was there a couple years. But what I did learn is you always take some from every job you leave. And what I learned from that particular job was how to do troubleshooting on computers.
Right.
So to this day, if I have a problem with any type of
Like technology or
technology
whatever.
or anything, it made me smarter that way. So that fashion and techie thing works very well together right now because of that. So I can say that part.
Okay.
So
So that's interesting. So you then
right.
transitioned into retail.
Retail. Yes. I from that part, I think I went to go work for somewhere in Lenox Mall. They had a couple little stores. I cannot remember the name of this store,
Mm-hmm.
but I did a
Well,
video with them.
that happens at this age, darling.
Right, because it's over 20 years ago. So, it was one of my first retail stores in a mall. So, I got a little taste of working in that store, and with that particular store that I worked for, they were shooting a video or something, and they picked me to do the wardrobing for it. And so, till this day, I have a little what is a VHS tape or whatever
Uh-huh.
of me actually. That was my first styling uh,
Wow.
job, and it was for the company. So
Wow.
they videoed me in the fitting room styling their clothes, and I think I was like 27, 28, and that's how I got into actually doing like the professional, coaching styling of that part. But before that, I was actually introduced of getting into image consulting while I was in school before I graduated, and I actually does that light come on or anything? It looks dark.
A
Does it
little,
look dark?
it's a little dark. Yeah.
Okay. But let me put this light down, see if that's better. I think after being in school and interning with 3 internships from 3 different image consulting companies, that kind of was, paving the way for me to figure out which direction I want to go with styling, image consulting, wardrobing, all that stuff.
Well, what's
So,
interesting is that it's amazing how things get laid out for you, and spiritually we know what that is, right? But how somebody lays you off or whatever, and it sets you up for the next thing, because you may not you may have left, but maybe not,
right,
without the push,
right.
right? Because honestly, when you start in retail, there's no money, right? It's not like there's money, right?
No,
So a corporate job kind of can is a little bit better. So I think that it's interesting that you kept on getting pushed, right, to go forward to your dream, that your destiny was waiting for you, right? The plan that God had for you was sitting out there, right? And you were being pushed toward it.
I think what happened too, being in that position where when I did that styling position, when I got videotaped, I actually had a conversation with a young lady named Angela, and she worked there, and we were just like, there's got to be more money to this, or something's going on. And I was in
Mm-hmm.
my 20s, and I was, still trying to figure out, but I wanted to go to Bloomingdale's because I heard you could, at that time, you could make 6
Mm-hmm.
figures, working at Bloomingdale's in the mall. And when I inquired about working there, I had like, they wanted four interviews. They wanted to
Wow.
interview, and it was like, oh, we'll call you back. It's like, you know, we'll interview you this day. You got to meet with this person, this person. It made it so professional, so like, oh wow, I got to be in there
It's
because
interesting how discerning they were back then,
right,
right? Like very protective of their brand, right?
mm-hmm,
Very discerning about who they hired, where they would be in the store, etc., which is quite frankly in all of retail quite different,
right.
right? Um, so here we are, right? So we will
Let
we
me
will
put that.
fast we will kind of fast forward. So you set out, you knew you wanted to kind of work at Bloomingdale's, like you knew that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You
I've
knew
heard.
you did.
Well, I heard stories about how much you would make, how much, what was
At
going
the
on
time,
there.
that was most
At
important,
the
right?
time, that was most important. And let me tell you, I always look at my future. So if I worked at Bloomingdale's, I knew Bloomingdale's had a New York. And my
Right.
goal was to work at Bloomingdale's and go to New York. So I had a pathway where let me see how I can get into Bloomingdale's, do what I need to do. And the next strategy was to go to New York. So,
So, and we've had a few more people join. So, just FYI, this is Letia Scales Young, very dear friend of mine, beauty and fashion influencer. You guys all read the information. Letia is bathed in fashion and style and beauty. She bathes in it and has been for the last 20 plus years. So, she's telling us her journey, how she got to, and she's going to share with us how to navigate, right?
right.
And how, and frankly, how we met, like how she mentored me. But go ahead. All right. So, you said you wanted to get into, hi, Kia. That's one of my longtime friends. We were college roommates in a boarding
Okay.
house. Crazy, right?
Hi,
All
Kia.
right. And so, hey, Lola. Okay, so you wanted to work at Bloomingdale's. So
Right.
let's fast forward. You did get in.
Right. I got in. And when I got in, because I worked at corporate America, they gave you choices of being what we call a BA, brand ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time that I worked, they didn't have very many people there who kind of knew about fashion. They want people to come in with that sense. If you don't, then they'll teach you. But since I already had a little bit of that experience behind me, they gave me shiftHER, and I think at the time, DKNY as my 2 little
Your brands.
area brands that I managed at the time. So, and when it's almost like today, like being a brand ambassador or being over a brand. But the good thing is we got paid for it. We got commissions off of it. I mean, you did well, and then you got a bonus at the end of the quarter. They gave you clothes. Just you know what? It's almost the same thing what's going on today.
And I will
But it's just
tell you, let me be clear with everybody here who is on. Okay. When I saw Letia, baby, be very, very clear about this. Okay. She owned her space.
I
All right.
did.
She was not going to allow anyone to invade that space. And she floated. I mean, she floated through the store.
I
Like,
did.
she
I
was
did.
beautiful. She was always done up. Even though we always had to wear black,
Yeah.
I was miserable. She was floating through the store. I mean, it was unbelievable and hilarious at the same time, because it was like she was in her own world, her own fashion and style world. And all of her clients, she treated like they were royalty.
I did.
And so that was one of the lessons that I learned. She didn't even know she was showing me that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's how we're going to do it. Then that's what we're going to do.
See,
So
I didn't even know you were like watching me like that. So I appreciate it, because I really treat people like I want to be treated when I go shopping. So that's when people say that to me, I'm like, wow. Sometimes you never know how people are watching it and you. So
it's the absolute truth. It is one of the reasons why I made it into a business just like you were doing. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. I thought you were just supposed to ring people up and do whatever, because I was just coming off of a very big corporate job and exhausted, right? So I was like, all right, but I'm watching you and I'm saying, well, okay, so let's turn this thing into a business just like Letia. That's what we're going to do. We're going to act like nobody else exists. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to do it our way and be successful at it.
Yeah.
So that you were very successful at it. No, that's a fact. That's not negotiable, right? Like, I mean, we can pull the numbers to see that, right? We know you were very successful. I mean, the designers, Letia himself was gushing over you.
And I found that picture of me, Letia, and the staff. You know,
I have the one with you and him.
Yeah, that one.
Yes, I have just the one with you and him. And so what did that feel like at the time? Like, I mean, seriously, you were doing something very, very different, because it wasn't necessarily, everybody wasn't warm and fuzzy to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were really doing something that was outside of what, at least in Atlanta, right, what people were doing. You were making true relationships with these brands and the designers themselves.
So let me go. I think what I realized that you have to have relationships with people, mm-hmm. and that's been so true till now. Mm-hmm. I was building relationships because I figured there had to be a strategy plan out of Bloomingdale's, and the strategy is a relationship. So with the clients, with the management, with the buyers, everybody, it was about warm and fuzzy, make it work, mm-hmm. know, long as you selling. Long as you were producing, then they were going to be happy. So I had to kind of figure out a plan while I was working at Bloomingdale's if I wanted to get in New York. And my plan was to meet the designer, kind of get his inspiration, figure out what, his world was in New York, and see if I can work myself up there with, as the brand ambassador. But, there were other plans later on, and we'll discuss how, I left Letia and still was able to go to New York without Letia, even though that was my first position as a brand ambassador with Bloomingdale's at the time. So,
right. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, that's a huge thing. So another shift, you ended up propelling yourself to get to 59th Street. And if anybody doesn't understand this or know this,
it's huge.
That 59, first of all, any brand, right? So from a retail perspective, especially big box retailers, right? So Bloomingdale's, Saks, Neiman's, which actually is just now getting recently into Manhattan, but okay. Bergdorf, etc. Mm-hmm. It's the center of the universe, right? Even Macy's, center of the universe. Yeah. Right? So you have Saks, you have Bloomingdale's. Those were the two big boys. When I was coming up, because I'm from New York, right? You had B. Altman's. Those were the stores, luxury stores that everybody went to. Lord and Taylor. Right. Those were the big luxury stores in Manhattan and in Westchester and surrounding areas, mm-hmm. that were everything, right? So Letia propelled herself, this Georgia girl, propelled herself to Bloomingdale's at 59th Street, which is the Mecca.
Right.
It's still, frankly, it's still a fabulous store.
It's still a fabulous
Fabulous.
store. It's a tourist attraction. It's a tourist attraction. So
Yes, it's definitely a tourist. So you propelled yourself to that
right.
environment. What was that like?
So let me go back a little bit. You know, when we worked at Bloomingdale's, there would be where they would fly us up to New York, and we do call a
Right.
conclave. Conclave would be where you be introduced to various designers. It's almost like we would sit in and have our own mini fashion
Hold
show.
on, you
They go
see,
over
wait a minute,
brands.
you see, hold on, wait, you see these New Yorkers? I see about Westchester County people talking about B. Altman.
Yes,
Huh? Okay, because you know how good it was. B. And Bloomies, everybody. And if you're from New York, you know, you understand, and
right,
grew up
right.
in my generation. You know B. Altman's. Full
Yes,
stop.
yes,
Right?
yes.
You know Bloomingdale's. All right. Sorry, let's see. I
Okay,
had to acknowledge that. Go
okay.
ahead.
So
All right.
So the conclave would be there will only be a certain people that would be picked to go to these events, and basically they would fly you up there. You have a whole nice hotel, you go
Mm-hmm.
to dinner,
They
you go to
spend a lot of money. A
spend a
lot of
lot of
money,
money.
guys.
Yeah, I mean it's still absolutely the best
Fact.
trip that
Yes.
we would take. And then they would just set you up a couple of days. You go meet the designers. They give you gift bags. I mean, it was like you being at a fashion show for yourself
Right.
and a couple of your closest coworkers. And I would enjoy those. I think I did just a couple of years, and that's how I was able to network every time I went to New York. And I would say I'm coming to New York because you would when you get up there they wowed you. They wowed you, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna move to New
Until
York.
wait,
New York.
until
So right, right. So yeah.
well, and
That
see,
was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to New York because of that conclave they would do for us.
well,
So
so interesting, right? So yes, it's the fashion. New York is the
it,
fashion style mecca. I mean, it's
yep,
New York and Paris, right?
right.
There's nowhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And but living in New York is very different,
Yes, it's
right?
very different.
Than right than shopping all day and styling all
Yeah,
day and all the rest of it. The reality sets in of
yeah.
what New York really is.
Yeah, you don't get to see exactly the lifestyle until you live it. And I thank God I was able to live comfortably. Let's just say that. Still the lifestyle I live in Atlanta and be fabulous because some people, I had my car up there and everything. So
I know.
yeah, so
I remember
so
that. I was like, why
remember.
is she bringing her
Yes.
car?
So you know how I got up there. So it went from LA to Hart, and I met one of the buyers who used to come always to Atlanta all the time, network, and said I wanted to move to New York. And next thing I know, I got a promotion in September of 2009 to go to New York for a brand called Quotations that I co-managed up there in New York. And it was one of the
And you
newest
put it
ways.
on the block too.
I put it on the block. They actually brought me over while I was in Atlanta and put it on the block. It's a new way of what they call bringing new designers in and showcasing these small designer brands and in one little area. So I was able to like push all of those brands very well,
Mm-hmm.
um, and manage that brand, and that's how I got to New York on a promotion by really pushing those different smaller brands.
And
So
back then, there weren't a lot of people doing what you did, right? So,
mm-mm.
I mean, that's just a fact, right? And again, I go back to how it was very difficult for me being in that retail environment, and you really made it that much easier for me because I understood by watching you how to make it easier on myself,
Right.
right? How to be able to navigate. I mean, I used to be late every day because I didn't understand punching the clock. It was the craziest thing in the world. They
Right.
almost fired me because I was always late. Like it was
Right.
crazy. But like you were like, you got to play the game. You got to play this game
You got
here.
to
This
play
is
the
how this
game.
works.
Right. Right. You came from corporate America, and being in retail, that's also political as well. That's like
Yes.
corporate
Yes.
America, same thing.
Yes.
Relationships, being political,
Yes.
knowing to do certain things is the exact
Yes.
same way. It's just
Yes.
a different environment.
And
So
and and
I treat that. So
and and let's be honest, Letia, right? The reality is that first of all, so I lean more into the style, right? As do
right,
you, but you
right,
know fashion. Like you know it. Like
right,
you breathe it, it's in your blood, right? But the reality is sometimes in a retail and in a retail environment, you don't necessarily have to bleed fashion, right?
No.
You don't necessarily have to, right?
No.
That was a bonus for you. But what made you so good at what you did back then, right? Because I can speak to it because I
Right.
saw it, is that everything. So people think that, when they see people like us, they're like, oh, look at that cost this much. Oh, she's got Chanel on. Oh, she's got this
Right.
and that. And you taught me, I mean, my mother was very good at this as well, that guess what? You make something work,
Right.
right? Like if you're going to go to XYZ, let's just use Zara as an example, right? If you're going to Zara something and you've got those Gucci shoes, you need to go ahead and pair that thing together, or
Right.
whatever, that you knew how to meet people where they stand,
Right.
right? So if somebody wasn't, not necessarily because they didn't have the money, but they just were not, they were price sensitive, they didn't want to go there, they didn't want to be labeled up, they didn't see the necessity in that, you knew how to do that. You understood how to make somebody look good based on what we had in the store,
Right.
right? Because again, we didn't have every single designer store, so we had to bring it in from New York,
Right.
right? But you were just so good at that. And I base literally everything that I've done from that point on that. I
What I can speak
base
to,
everything on that.
what I can speak to about that, I was literally working on my business, and every customer that I work with, that was helping me understand how to, niche my market with my company. So what people don't understand is being an image consultant and a stylist, you need to style or dress as many people to understand how to do it well. Retail, if you ever work retail, that's the best way to do it, because a lot of people come in different sizes, ages, backgrounds, professional, and it is right there. You can get experience right there. And one thing, when I was doing internship, they taught me that's one of the ways you can get experience, because it's the easiest way to learn a lot of different
Things.
people or things at one, and get paid for it instead
And
of
like you
just
said, in one place, in
in
one
one
place.
place. Right. In one place. So that actually helped me. So while I was there, I was strategizing with my business to kind of say, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to market my business. And then also being in Bloomingdale's started me understanding luxury. So, if you want to get into luxury, Bloomingdale's is kind of a starting point, because they had the price points of moderate to high. And
Right.
once you start going into the high, it's like a whole different world, a whole different ball game.
Well,
So
we learned how to, and again, you were my springboard, right?
yeah,
So I learned how to from you, how to, you can bring people there,
yeah,
right? So it's not an overnight process, right? A lot of it has to do with people seeing their value in themselves,
right,
right? That I just could not spend that much money on
right,
myself, right? Like again, I couldn't possibly do that, right? And it evolves that way,
mm-hmm,
right? As you nurture somebody and you show them and you work with them, and then it
right,
happens where they're like, oh, I think I want to buy a handbag today,
yeah,
or I think I want to buy a pair of shoes. But let's be clear, luxury doesn't equal quality.
that's
Not
true.
all the time,
That's
right?
true.
Say it,
That's true.
Letia,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it's not about as many brands that I've worked with. I think I've heard a quote. It was on one of the housewives, like, even Louis Vuitton gets it wrong, or I don't know the
right.
exact quote, but I mean, working for these brands, I've been to factories where I've seen how some of these bags, especially Louis Vuitton, how they've made some of these crafted luxury pieces, and I look at it differently. Not bad, but I just look at it differently. So
It casts a
I
different,
just there's some of them I'm just not gonna.
it
I'm not
casts
saying
a
I'm not
different light.
saying Louis per se, but I can tell now, looking at stitching, I looking at the leather, the material, the craftsmanship, because I've been to these places now, that I'm very particular on what I buy. And even when I go to Zara, I still look at the material and how it's stitched, because once you learn how something looks a certain way, luxury or not, you can be particular that way. A lot of people ask me, what's funny is I wear designer clothes, but not all the time. And I've been stopped where I wore something Zara and I wore some designer. And people think the Zara is the designer, which, once again, if you learn the material, you'll know how to look luxe without paying the luxe price. And
In
designer
addition to
sometimes,
that,
go
in
ahead.
addition to that, it's the person wearing the clothes.
Mm,
It okay,
okay.
right?
Okay.
All right. All right. So let's just do
Right.
that.
Right.
Okay. Miss Scales Young, can we do that,
Okay.
please?
Okay.
I mean, we know
This,
this is true,
this is
right?
true.
Because we know plenty of people who are baked in designer from head to toe, and it doesn't necessarily look that luxurious,
Well, and
right?
that's what part of my business, the image
Mm-hmm.
consulting, being a consultant. I teach people or coach people on how to dress for themselves. So it could be high and low or all high, all low. If it looks good on you, nobody will be able to tell because you're wearing the clothes, not the clothes are wearing you. So that's the difference with, when I start getting involved with consulting and coaching people about their image and their wardrobe and styling and things. I want to teach them how to look a certain way where they always look consistent and look good. So whether it's wearing something Louis Vuitton, Fendi, or Zara, or H&M, or ASOS, anything like that, it shouldn't matter about the brand. It should just matter how it's being worn. So, and that's what I teach people a lot.
Well, I think that
So
that's so. Speaking of your image consulting and styling and the rest of it, your business, because you're also an entrepreneur, so
right,
let's not do that, right? You are an entrepreneur, and I believe that every person should at one time in their life have a stylist or a wardrobe consultant, whatever you want to call it, that they should invest in it one good time
right.
to set the tone, to
I
help
agree.
you set the tone, right? And so that's what I was about to ask. What do you think about that?
I do. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people recently asking me about what I do, and I said, "Look, you need to." Now what I do is I give the example of Fantasia and her stylist, because everybody was like, "Oh my God, Fantasia!" I said, "But if you go to before Fantasia and now Fantasia,
Baby,
everybody's so loud about her. But look what it is doing.
absolutely
It's because
fabulous.
it's showing awareness of how a stylist, a wardrobe person can make a difference. And she just did that on her tour. Imagine if she's like that every day, every day. Why does it have to be just on a tour? Why can't she just have a wardrobe where she could just pull some out and look fabulous? And it's already laid out for her. But I think going forward, this is what she's gonna do. And another one, Kelly Rowland is looking, fabulous as well with her stylist. So I'm giving hands up for people understanding. They're seeing it, but they have to see it on a bigger scale to really understand how